So welcome to tonight's event. So this is our third surgeries. So it's our third Get a Grip on Grants discussion and a step-by-step guide to Glasgow City Heritage Trust grant processes. So the first slide is about what we are and what we do. So we are an independent charity that provides nearly 1 million annually to promote and protect Glasgow heritage and in particular its historic built environment. As you know, we run internal events and projects, and also we fund external projects. I am Silvia Scopa and I'm the Community Engagement Officer at Glasgow City Heritage Trust. And I'm hosting this event tonight with my colleague Erin Walter, with the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer. So what we'll be talking about today, we will be focusing on our community and heritage grant. This surgery is part of a series of 4. So every surgery highlights 2 different programs. And our next surgery is going to be focusing on building repair and development grant. So on this surgery, we are going to focus on the community and heritage grant programs. We're going to talk about the grant process journey, the do's and don'ts of the application process, and we also have 2 great speakers tonight. We have John Graham, who is the coordinator of Ghost Signs of Glasgow, and Dan Phee, who is the curator and coordinator of TnmntTiles. At the end, as I mentioned before, there is going to be some time for questions and answers, and if you have any questions, you can just write it in the chat that you should have at the bottom of your screen, and then I'll ask the question for you. And at the end, there's also going to be a slide with all our contacts. But anyway, all Glasgow City Heritage Trust contacts are on our website anyway. So basically, what are the heritage and community grants? So the heritage grants are available for opportunities for people to learn about and enjoy Glasgow historic built environment, and community grants are available for projects that are delivered and developed by community members to engage with matters relating to Glasgow historic built environment. So of course, these grants have taken the form of a lot of things, of research projects and tours and exhibitions, lectures, festivals, performances, books, films, residencies. Really, sky is the limit, because very often they are related and they work with the intangible built environment, so with social history and memories. So they can be whatever you want them to be. They are very similar between each other. The main difference is that community grants, a community project, in order to be approved, need to be developed and delivered by and for a community. So there needs to be a very strong community element. And now I'm going to pass to Erin.
Thanks, Sylvia. As Sylvia said, I'm Erin Walter, and I am the Evaluation and Monitoring Officer. And again, my contacts will be at the end if you have any follow-up questions. But I am quickly going to take you through the application journey at GCHT. So here's a nice infographic of it, and this presentation is downloadable on our website as a very nice foldable PDF if you're interested. But we start with an inquiry, and I will move through the different stages. And it's always good to remember that you claim funding at the end of a project. And while we'll talk a bit about interim payments and the such, but it's a nice way to think of the linear progress. Slide. So our inquiry progress is it's the first step that you'll do when thinking about a project. So after you have your concept, you'll go onto our website, and there'll be a picture on this slide as well. There it is. If you go to the grants tab, you can go down to grant inquiry form, and it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to fill out this very brief inquiry with your contact details and a bit about how your project relates to the historic built environment, what kind of outcomes it may include. You'll see just above that we have our guidance notes. I would very much so encourage you to go on and have a look now. Each grant program, all 5, have the same kind of process of inquiry, and their different eligibility and criteria is available on the guidance notes. It also includes dates for all of our committee meetings and a bit about what we're looking for in terms of outcomes and strategic priorities. Slide. So after the inquiry, you will receive an email or phone call from a GCHT staff member. And depending on which program your project best fits within, you'll be assigned someone who will really be with you throughout the entirety of your project, from start up until the very finish of evaluating and claiming your funds for it. And we used to be in the office, now we're all work from home, but we are very happy to meet you on the phone or via a Zoom call, and hopefully again one day in person. And during these meetings, we usually go through the application with you and help you, especially in terms of things like budgets and outcomes, which can be a bit tricky and sometimes you need to be creative with. We can always lend a hand there. And once you're done with this application, which will be provided by your staff member, you'll fill it out. It's a PDF. It doesn't take too long. It's not too complicated, luckily. And you will submit it. It will be taken to a committee. So that'll be on the next slide. Our committees meet quarterly. If your grant is approved at the committee, who's made up of a number of our trustees, then you'll be given a contract to sign, and it kind of goes along with the application, saying your time frame, what you'll do, how you'll get claims. However, if your project's not approved, it's not necessarily the end of the line. We're more than happy to offer feedback, and there's always potential to readdress the project or perhaps the application a bit, and you are welcome to submit the application once again in the future. It's also good to note that some projects have multiple applications. They go through phases. So this can be doing a feasibility study at one stage and then building repair later, or for Go Signs, which has also moved into different stages, which is exciting and you'll hear about. So there's always longevity for these things. Next slide.
Sorry, I moved.
That's okay. I have more to say. Excellent. Yes, the work. So once you've signed your contract, you generally have 9 months to complete it. We can be flexible here and have been, especially in the pandemic, where a lot of projects have had to move physical works onto digital kind of platforms and seek new outcomes. If you are in need of interim payments, you can discuss this with your grant officer, and they can be arranged throughout your project, depending on when you're seeing invoices. Also for community, there is an option to get some money up front now in order to carry it through and help with some costings. So once your project is complete, all you need to do is submit receipted invoices. So it's a very important thing to keep hold of during your program, especially if it's 9 months worth of receipts. And you submit those alongside a short evaluation report, which we have guidance notes for. And 10% of your funding is withheld until you submit the evaluation. You can do this at any point after your project is complete. You have 3 months to do it generally, and I'm the contact there, so more than happy to help with people working that out. And again, the guidance notes provide information on each grant program and its strategic priorities and outcomes, which you'll then report on. So this is talking about both the successes and the challenges of your program. And just because, you know, it was an outcome and you didn't meet it doesn't mean it was a failure. We always see unexpected benefits, and we learn something from each project, which is important. Next slide. So building your project. I'm sure many of you here tonight have concepts in mind and are thinking about how to make them into practical projects, and especially how to get funding for them. So first thing I would recommend is to read the guidance notes. This is kind of goes for any charity which you're dealing with. The guidance notes can be a great first step in seeing if your project is eligible and deciding if this is the right charity for your funding. Oftentimes you can get funding from multiple charities for a single project, and you can match up your own eligibility and criteria that way. Have a look at past annual reports as well as case studies. We have these on social media and website, and they might give you a good idea about what certain projects did and what they saw for their communities and outcomes. Absolutely discuss this with your grant officer. We've seen hundreds of projects and have lots of ideas, and would be more than happy to help you explore how your project might best be feasible. And reflect on how you're representing, promoting, and protecting Glasgow's built environment. So as we are a City Heritage Trust, our projects all have to do with the built environment in some way, whether that's tangible or intangible. And we're very lucky that we live in such a beautiful city that has so many different built heritage elements. So we see this, very practically in terms of putting up a roof, but also with beautiful projects like you'll hear about tonight with our speakers. Next slide. And do's and don'ts. Absolutely complete an inquiry. It's the first step, and it's an important step in getting your project rolling and opening up a conversation about your potential. And absolutely as well, talk to a staff member. One day we'll be open again, but right now, email, social media, these are all really easy ways to reach us. We're a very small and receptive team, and we are more than happy to discuss projects. And don'ts, absolutely don't forget to collect your receipts. That can be an absolute nightmare. Don't forget that costings are not flexible. So once you've had an accepted application and you've signed a contract, you do need to stick to those works and those costings. Now, if you come up against a wall, and often this has been the case with the pandemic, if you can please be in touch with your staff member, we can agree upon different costings and different outcomes, but it does need to be agreed prior to you making those purchases or changing your project's aims. And don't give up. These are oftentimes large, big problems. Things arise, they can be difficult, but they're massively important for the city, for the built environment, as well as for the communities which they involve. So it's an important thing to do, and we really do look forward to all the new projects coming through, and we're happy to have had a hand in the ones that have passed. So I'll pass back to Sylvia, and I think she'll get on with hearing from some of our speakers.
Yep.
I'll be around for the Q&A if anyone has any questions about that. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Erin. So our first speaker is John Graham, who is one of the coordinators of Ghost Signs of Glasgow. So for this surgery, for the first time, we asked our speakers to talk about all the challenges that they had to face when the COVID pandemic started, and particularly with the restrictions. So of course, everyone has been affected. All the projects, all the Glasgow City Heritage Trust projects were affected, but I think in particularly community grant projects and heritage grant projects, because there are a lot of elements of people interaction and exhibitions and workshops. So we thought that it would have been interesting for you to listen to all the different ways these two grantees faced the COVID restrictions, and how they managed to go ahead with the project, which I think is quite impressive. So our first grantee, as I said, is Jan Graham. She's one of the coordinator of Ghost Signs of Glasgow, which is a project that is very dear to me, because I started the first phase of the project in 2019 as a grantee, and then they managed to develop, and now it is in its second phase. So I think it's a great example of what grant can do. So yeah, I think we are now going to listen to Jan.
Yeah, so as Sylvia said, I'm the current coordinator of Ghost Signs of Glasgow, along with Maren Kerrigan. So about us, we graduated from the Glasgow School of Art at the same time. So Maren was from a design background, I was from sculpture environmental art. So we were originally volunteers with Sylvia as the coordinator. So we helped create maps, we photographed signs, we wrote blogs, social media posts. So it's a picture of us as a group of volunteers, and this is the maps that we helped create. Yeah, so then a year later we made a successful application for to take the project forward to the next phase, and then we took over as coordinators from Sylvia. So next slide. Yeah, so essentially, Ghost Signs of Glasgow is a project that documents, researches, archives disappearing faded signs from around the city with the help of the team of volunteers. So with the grant, we were able to expand the project. So we had a conference, you can see in the picture here, So we invited speakers from other ghost signs sites across the UK and Ireland. So we had Ghost Signs of Dublin, Ghost Signs of London, Ghost Signs of Birmingham, and of course Ghost Signs of Glasgow, and that's me and Maren Kerrigan hosting the conference. So it was quite a marathon ticketed event. So as well as the conference, what we had originally planned was a touring exhibition with a printed catalogue and a sign writing workshop with the Women's Type Foundry. So successes, yeah. In September we had obviously the conference with the speakers that I mentioned, and then we had a panel discussion afterwards on the conservation of ghost signs. So the exhibition and catalogue, well, they're still in the works. We do plan to do those, although they're postponed for now. What we plan to do instead is a kind of taster of the exhibition with a virtual exhibition. So that'll happen later this month, and we'll post out the exhibition catalogue. And that will coincide with the sign writing workshop, which will also go online. Other successes, so the volunteers are still writing blogs, photographing signs, archiving, and we're still engaging with people online through social media. People often tag us to tell us about new signs that they've found. Next slide. Challenges, so I guess the situation with COVID-19 has meant sort of rethinking the whole project and how we could really turn all the face-to-face activities and move those things online. So the conference was held on Zoom, as I said, as a ticketed event, and then creating the virtual exhibition. And I guess what that does is provide a preview of what will be in the catalogue and the physical exhibition when that eventually happens. And so this is an example of the kind of social media engagement that we have. Quite large following on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. So although where we would usually research was the Mitchell, so obviously with that being closed, we'd had to be a bit more creative about content and sort of dip into our own archive that we had sort of unearthed before the pandemic and the lockdown. So I guess in its own way, it was a way to showcase those stories that we already had and put those online. So challenges, but opportunities as well, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Okay, so if you have any questions for Jan, please write them in the chat. Any questions about ghost signs or how they developed the project or what is the future of ghost signs as well, please ask them in the chat and we'll be able to ask your question to Jan for you. So thank you, Jan, that was very interesting. So we are now going to introduce our second speaker, who is Lizanne Phee, and she's the curator and the coordinator of TnmntTiles, that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Is social media. It started as a social media archive, and Lizanne is our current grantee. She just completed the project, and it's a community grant, so it's one of my grants, and it's an amazing project, and she had to face quite a lot of challenges due to the restrictions, and I thought that it would have been very interesting for anyone who is thinking of a project or is thinking of applying to us for a grant. It will be very helpful to listen how Dan managed what happened. So yeah, Dan, you can start.
Hello, I am Lizanne, and as stated, I run the TnmntTiles archive. My sort of interest in TnmntTiles and sort of the items of decor that we archive, which is stained glass, ironwork, and tiles within the sort of tenement atmosphere. I moved back to the south side, and the south side, every sort of corner you turn it's an obsession. Like, there's just tiles. I go to the shop and I sort of stop, get distracted and wander into closes to take pictures. And luckily that obsession has an audience, and so TnmntTiles was born. The online archive started on Twitter and was going for about 4 years, I think, before it decided to go and try and get funding to do something a wee bit different. And this is where Glasgow City Heritage comes in. So, oh, sorry, I get distracted by the text. If we pop onto the next slide.
Yep.
So here, I'll just read the bit and then I'll elaborate. TnmntTiles is a social media-based archive documenting original design features from Scotland's tenements. The grant was given to create a real-world exhibition and a series of workshops focusing on the Glasgow's domestic built environment, aiming to raise awareness and educate the public in the ways to care for these features. That has always been at the heart of the project, and we wanted to take that into the exhibition. The whole point of the exhibition was sort of reach out. I've just realised you can see my window still there. I really wish I'd given that a wipe. To reach out to people who aren't based on social media. There's so many people that we have noticed our kind of main market audience tends to be a kind of older generation, and we were hoping to introduce, or at least ignite an interest in the sort of domestic built environment within Glasgow beyond our social media base. Obviously, COVID came along and sort of put an end to that. If you skip to the next thing. So, because of COVID and the ever-changing guidelines, it was decided that we would shift from our original plan of an exhibition with the Glasgow City Heritage Trust and Tenement House and move to an online exhibition, which was very well received. Got lots of lovely feedback through our social media. We moved to having a real-world launch to online launch, which became a sort of event in itself, a little bit different from the normal sort of launches. I did a very long talk about the exhibition and sort of did a walk through of the exhibition and our accompanying digital booklet. The decision to go with a digital booklet just made sense with having the online exhibition. However, we did get a fair bit of sort of interest in a real world one. So through sort of back and forth with Glasgow City Heritage, it was decided that some of the original funding that was to go towards a structure, which obviously we couldn't do, was shifted to creating some real world books, like hardback books, and posting them out all for free, which people loved. We also had to move our workshops and talks to online, and that was the exhibition was originally to run 2 months in each location, but was moved to online for 2 months, I think, in total. So that, as it says, the physical exhibition was cancelled and moved online. We had our we did our live launch. Our digital booklet went from being a real world thing to digital and then back to real world. And as I was saying, because of the situation, and poor Sylvia had so many Zoom talks with me to sort of go through everything. They are there to help. They're very receptive. If you've got any questions, like when I first came forward with doing the exhibition idea, I wasn't sure if I fell under heritage or community. And we talked through it and we sort of hammered it out, and they're so good. So if you're worried about sort of not being an expert or just having like a slight interest but you want to promote it somehow, just get in touch, because that's what they do, and they're very good at it as well. As I said, all our talks were moved to online. Our social media, because we had a sort of pre-existing platform, that was great for getting feedback, which is very, very important. They mentioned keeping a hold of your receipts, but keep a hold of feedback. This is very important for your end paperwork. Our social media rose by, I think it was 201 on our Twitter over the 2-month period that we were active online for the exhibition, and just over 150 on our Instagram, which is quite a chunk of followers, and it proves that there is an interest for this kind of thing. I've done that thing where I got sidetracked, and I'm sorry.
It's fine.
But yes, yeah.
Okay, and so yeah, and then there is this in the last slide. There is this amazing logo of TnmntTiles. So
that was my friend made that, and it was like a present for my birthday, like last year, and it timed perfectly for getting the booklets done. So I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's very nice. So then, yeah, at this point you can ask any question you like. And the next slide, as I mentioned before, with a lovely picture of our office. We are all working from home at the moment, and of course when we first thought about this Surgeys event, it was pre-pandemic, so we planned it quite differently. We planned it to have it around Glasgow with catering and tea and biscuits and people moving around, but fortunately is 2021. So we are able to have all this on Zoom and to still be able to engage and interact. So here there are our phone number and all our email addresses, but this is something that you can find on our website as well. So I will stop sharing my screen, and we okay, so I do have a question already. So yeah, so it's a question about ghost sign. So would be lovely to hear a bit more about how the ghost signs project developed. So the initial idea behind it, and if that changed in collaboration with the Glasgow City Heritage Trust. So I think probably this is a question that we can reply to together. John?
Yeah, I guess if you start, because it was your original idea,
Yeah.
Sylvia. So.
Yeah, so yeah, basically I came up with the idea, but I'm sure as you know, the idea of cataloging ghost signs existed already. There was already a very big platform in London and in Dublin and in Bath, but I kept going around Glasgow and noticing a lot of ghost signs. And at that time I was working I was doing like inventories of museum objects. So I guess I had like my frame of mind was like I must record everything. So I kept looking around and I kept looking at these ghost signs, and I thought they look amazing. Why isn't anyone like taking notes of what they are, and why isn't anyone researching them? And then yeah, I did some research about the different sort of funding, and of course I had an idea in mind, but I wasn't sure about a lot of practicalities, particularly budget-wise. And yeah, I had an idea in mind, but then talking to mine was an heritage grant. So talking with the heritage manager, they helped me to develop the concept and gave me like a lot of guidelines, particularly because it started as a volunteer-based project. So I was just the coordinator, and all the volunteers were doing basically all the work. And it was quite a big project, and it was very successful, but of course it was successful because of the volunteers. So no, it didn't change. It didn't change with the Glasgow City Heritage Trust. They did help me to develop it better. And yeah, John, you can give as well your
yeah, and then so the second phase was basically as a team working out what we wanted to do next. So it was the exhibition, the catalogue, that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't think it changed in collaboration, but kind of, you know, with the volunteer team, that was what we wanted to do next. That was the kind of discussions that we had. And the direction that we wanted to take it in.
So would you say that the idea of having an exhibition was dictated by the volunteers as well? Were they the ones saying?
I'm trying to remember back. I'm pretty sure at the meetings you were like, what should we do next, weren't you? And that's kind of, that was the consensus, that it would be good to have an exhibition, a catalogue, that kind of thing.
And what do you think what do you think like the next phase is going to bring?
From this grant?
After you
afterwards,
like your exhibition and everything, what's going to happen?
So I guess we're talking about how we can be more sort of interactive online, so maybe an interactive map of all of the signs. And maybe we were also talking about maybe recording some of them, so maybe you could do a bike tour and listen to it on your headphones, something like that. So yeah, we'll see.
Great. Does anyone? Okay, yeah. So yeah, just say nice to get an idea of the progression of the project and good to hear about the volunteer team. I guess that Dan, for you as well, is kind of the same thing. You don't have like a volunteer team, but still like a lot of the images and information comes from some sort of like crowd sourcing as well.
Yeah, community content is a massive thing. And when we started the project about 6 years ago, it instantly became apparent that people were keen to share their finds. Like there was suddenly somewhere where they could show someone something and go, look, you like this too. And they got very excited, and that sort of community built from that. With COVID happening, I've obviously had to, and I presume yourself to have had to sort of cut down on your sort of ghost sign hunts, and myself tile hunts. Luckily I'm based in the south side, so they're everywhere. But because of that, the exhibition booklet, which was made, at the back of it there was like a little sort of bingo scavenger hunt card, which was to encourage people to go out and get the family involved on tile hunt. So because of that, I've received so many more contributions from the community. And as I was saying earlier, we've just started a Facebook page as well, which we hit, I think it's like 1,100 followers in about a week and a half. So just those numbers alone show that there is a major interest in this kind of thing. But yeah, I always refer to the project as our project, and I always refer to it as we, because it is a community thing. Like the project wouldn't exist without the audience and people contributing. The exhibition wouldn't exist without the audience and people contributing. So I might be the figurehead, but like it wouldn't exist without everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm just curious to know, do you think that with COVID restrictions and everything else, like the submission of pictures from the public slowed down a little bit, or you think that like people are pushed outside and to go for endless like walks every day? So do you think, can you see like a difference?
I feel like there's been, again, since opening Facebook, there's like a whole new avenue of content of people who have been taking pictures or maybe spotted something they really enjoyed the look of like 2 years ago, and they're like, oh, I took this photograph when I was visiting my gran like a year and a half ago, and you know, random stuff like that, and they've finally got an outlet to sort of put it forward to an audience, like an appreciative audience. I do feel that because people are sort of staying at home or sort of staying very local, they're appreciating sort of what's on their doorstep a wee bit more.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take credit for that, and I'm not going to give COVID credit for that either. I'm not going to give COVID credit for anything. But there is a sort of, I feel like with everything that's happened, the sense of community and all aspects of community has got a lot stronger. So ties to people who in the same building as you, like I've lived in flats for years and sometimes didn't even know my neighbour's name. I know everybody and all their dogs, like since this all started. And even they've said, since I mentioned like that I run this project, they'll send me messages and be like, oh, I spotted this tile when I was out walking the dog. So it's giving people a nice focus that isn't anything to do with the madness that's going on in the rest of the world while it's slowly on fire. They're able to look in and appreciate and enjoy something that is separate from all of that. So I feel like if you exclude the rising numbers of followers, there definitely has been a lot more content and
yeah. I think as well, like what we experienced, of course, like when everything started, for a period of time, we got fewer and fewer applications, because I feel that a lot of people who had a project in mind that involved like communities and everything, they thought, I'm going to wait for this to be done before I apply for a grant. But I think we are now at a point that we don't know when this is going to pass. So in a way, like a good side of this situation is that it pushed everyone to think in a creative way about other way of engaging people and getting people interested in historic built environments. So that is one of the good sides of this pandemic, I guess. And what do you see like in the future of TnmntTiles? Of course, you have like all the exhibition ready to go whenever it's going to be safe to do so. But
it is stacked next to my bed in the room, hiding from the sun for as long as it needs to. Well, in Scotland, it's not going to be that long, is it? But like, it's hiding just to make sure they're nice and safe. At the moment, I'm currently looking into creating some prints. There's been some excitement about that. I've only been asked constantly for the past 6 years, and that's me just getting around it. We're looking to do like a kind of tile hunters membership thing. I'm currently making little TnmntTiles badges, and it means that people who contribute regularly can get like a little sort of club badge. So just sort of expanding on the community and sort of thanking people who have been around for so long and sort of supporting us has been like a sort of being on furlough has definitely given me the time to sort of focus on this a wee bit.
Okay, great. So does anyone have any other question you would like to ask about our grants? How does it work? Or Erin, do you have anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, I think the speakers did a wonderful job. It's really nice to hear about projects that have, continued on so long and are, if anything, becoming stronger through the increased digital age. Zan, I'm very interested in a badge. Let's see, we have both of these projects feel they perhaps tap into a widespread enthusiasm that exists out there, but didn't necessarily have a focus, which I guess may be a useful starting point for ideas for new projects. Absolutely. I think that, we a lot of times see projects that are either, that can be, established like TnmntTiles, or that are quite new, that are just kind of baby concepts that need to be fostered. So I think at GCHT, there's room for projects of all shapes and sizes. I mean, both of yours, you could have done so much with either of these projects. So it's nice to have gone the way you're going and to be able to expand it more.
And I think that, like, personally is one I think it's the favorite, is my favorite aspect of my job, is the favorite aspect of my job, the fact that we get to listen to people ideas and just to foster their enthusiasm and say, yeah, we can do it. So yeah, absolutely. Like if you have like an idea or a project in mind, even if it's not like super well developed, we can help you to develop the concept as long as it's like linked to the historic built environment. And as we said in the PowerPoint as well in the presentation, really sky's the limit, because we do have a lot to do. Like very often my projects and the heritage projects, and like in this case as well, even Ghost Science and TnmntTiles, they are all sort of like, they are based on, of course, like existing real built environment, but there is a lot of intangible, there's a lot of an intangible part to it, because there are memories and people enthusiasm and a little bit of social history. So yeah, there is a lot of scope to come up with an interesting project. And one of the one of the very good things of Glasgow and Glaswegians is that everyone is very passionate about their surrounding, and they're very interested to know more, and there is a real sense of attachment, and everyone can feel the value and the importance of these things. So it's a very good thing. So I'm sure.
And I think we're very lucky at the office too, when it's open, that we do have a small exhibition space. We do have a small area for lectures. So, you know, we really enjoy these nights of having like a glass of wine and hearing about people's memories in relation to projects and the images people put on walls.
Yeah, hopefully. Of course, like the Zan's exhibition, the TnmntTiles exhibition, was the first time that we had an online exhibition, because at other times it would have been in our lovely office.
I had a dress picked out and everything, but next time.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
We have another question, says, would you consider a project which has several funding streams, or would it be better to have yourselves as the sole funder of a project? And I would say the more funding streams, the better. We love to see that you have, you know, resources and people to rely on and money coming in. It's okay if we're the sole funder, as long as there's another kind of resource coming in. So that could be in-kind contributions. It could be your own resources. You know, you may have a patron, who knows? But yeah, we have no issue being one of many funders, especially for larger projects. It can be an important aid for you.
I'm not sure if it was just for the community grant project, but there was a definite sort of push within the paperwork to reach out to pre-existing bodies or people who have knowledge that would sort of help with the exhibition. So obviously I had Darren, and we were working with Jangling Space in the south side, and those were pre-existing bodies who tied in really nicely with what we were hoping to do. So if you don't know those people, like, but you want that aspect, Glasgow City Heritage know hundreds of people. Like they are there to help and help sort of solidify your idea.
Yeah, I think partnerships like that, Dan, are super important, because they can extend your own network and your skills and, you know, potential for workshops or talks by so much.
Yeah. And they show you as well that you like did some research and have like a concept, a vision in mind. And like in this case, like when the first phase of Ghost Science, I think I only did a collaboration of a workshop, and then it was all volunteer based, and I think we went to the Mitchell, but I know that Jan is now collaborating with for the writing workshop as well.
Oh yeah, the Women's Type Foundry, yeah,
for the workshop as well, and they organized this amazing conference, and it has been very good to connect with a lot of other ghost science people. Are there any other questions? Anything else? Any of you, Jan or Zan, would like to add? Like if you have any word of advice for someone who is thinking about applying to one of our grants? Do you?
Yeah, I jotted down a couple of things just as you go through the application, just sort of identify the objectives of the trust. Even if it's just something like accessibility, you know, just using venues that are accessible, even something like that.
And Dan, did you want to say something?
You know, I'll happily talk about this for days. I mean, you've literally heard me talk for days about it. There we go. Yeah, no, I think I said in my little quote that sort of went out with promos for this. Mm-hmm. Do your research, contact venues, keep notes on absolutely everything, because, I mean, hopefully this will not be the situation again for another million years, but like sometimes your plans will have to change, and if you have that information already there, that you can go, okay, this isn't going to work, but we have this avenue, is this something we can do? This is a conversation you've had with me like 40 times. So yeah, do your research, keep every piece of paperwork, keep your receipts, keep all your quotes, keep absolutely everything. Like at one point I had, for the exhibition, I had to set up to get the prints made. And we were still going forward because it looked like we might be coming out. This is, I don't even know, because date means nothing, time means nothing. But at some point before the exhibition went to online, I had to organise prints and we were going to get it, and it was going to exist as a real thing. But when I contacted the people who we'd quoted and we'd chosen to go forward for the prints, they were like, we can't do prints because COVID. And so I had to find somewhere else. But luckily I had all the paperwork sitting there where I could try and track someone down. So things like that, just having sort of, not necessarily a legitimate backup plan, but like having the information there that, so if you have to, the word pivot has been overused for due to friends, but like pivot to another sort of avenue of thinking. There was a fair wee bit of sort of hot footing, but that, like I said before, this is what Glasgow City Heritage Trust do, and they know what they're doing, and they managed to somehow help me create build a website. I didn't know how to do that. Like, I didn't know how to do it. But that's something I do know how to do now, and I now have a website that I can expand for the hopefully real world exhibition at some point, or just for the pre-existing community to sort of get more information out there, and sort of spread a wee bit more of our core beliefs and aims. So yeah, like, just do your research and keep every scrap of paper, like every scrap of paper.
Great.
Yeah, I think feedback especially, it's such an important one. We've got another question about the formats of exhibitions, whether they're photographs or objects or a range of both. Generally, we're happy to exhibit anything. It can be a film, it can be a photograph, a series, objects. I challenge you to do a performance. Yeah. Whatever you like, we absolutely have the capacity to do.
And there was something amazing in store for the TnmntTiles exhibition. I won't say more because probably it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah,
so I don't want to spoil it, but there was something amazing in storage.
I have referred to it as a sculpture. We've just left it.
Yeah,
yeah, an installation.
Hopefully, it's going to become a reality. I hope at some point in our lifetime it's going to be a reality, because I was very excited about it.
Well, see, now you just invited me to go and apply for more funding. That you've just done that. That was your fault.
Absolutely. But like Sylvia said, the sky's the limit. So we don't I guess our limits of what a community or heritage grant is continually broaden and shift based on what projects come in. So if your project can extend that even further, excellent. We love to see it.
And John, I think that the Ghost Science exhibition that you're planning to do is basically like prints of photographs.
Yeah, it's just photographic prints on foam board to go on the wall. I think it was originally planned we would show one of your signs that you'd acquired.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would have been part of the original exhibition, but not gone forward, I guess.
Yeah. So someone gave us, they didn't donate it to us, they just gave it to us like to borrow for a period of time, a great sign. I think it was an Art Nouveau brass sign, like super heavy, and that would have been a very nice touch to the exhibition. But I mean, it's 100 years old, so it's going to last another 100 years. So yeah, probably in the future. So yeah, hopefully we are going to be able to have exhibitions in our space soon again, because it was also a very good opportunity to have people coming into the office and chatting to us. So for sure it's something that is missing at the moment, so hopefully. Any other question at all? I think we covered everything. So our next surgery, our next and last surgery is on the 31st of March, and it's a Wednesday. It's at the same time, is free. You just have to book, and tickets are going to go on sale on the 1st of March. So next one is going to be focusing on our building repair grant and on our development grant. And we'll have some more speakers, and it's going to be the same format, but just about other grants. So please, if you know of anyone who is thinking of applying for this kind of grant, let them know, spread the word. And you can always contact us. You can either submit an inquiry, or you can contact us on social media. You can write us an email, whatever you want. Just let's get in touch, and we are going to be happy to help. And please follow these two amazing projects as well, that I'm sure are going to bring amazing things to the world.
I just think that you're like, if I could just have you as my cheerleader like all the time, that'd be great. I mean, you'd be very tired very quickly, but yeah.
Write me an email, I'm going to cheer.
Assigned Monday.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone. So hopefully see you at the next surgery as well.
Thank you for coming.